Hi, I'm John Strohmeyer, and today we're going to talk about the 5 main risks of not planning. Risk number 1 of not doing any planning, well, there are going to be delays. If something happens to you, you pass on. If there's been no planning put in place, we're going to see delays from having to spend the time to find assets, figure out what the plan was. If there's no last will, we're going to spend time and have a longer probate process with an heirship. So risk number 1, delays. Nobody likes delays. Risk number 2 kind of draws from that. Well, if we have delays, we're probably going to have frustration. Whoever's left to clean up the mess is going to have to deal with this, and this is probably not going to be easy if they don't have any sort of roadmap on what to do. So you could be creating frustration for those left behind if there is no plan in place. Risk number 3, well, delays and frustration. What else could we be worried about? Confusion. Confusion is something where we're going to have people who don't know where to look, they don't know what to look for. You know, if you don't know, if the people who are coming behind you after you've passed on, they don't know if you had a bank account with Bank of America, Chase, Cadence, Ally, USAA, or any of the other thousands of banks around the country, they're going to have to start looking for those assets to try and figure out what you may own. So really, it's going to be confusion, and that's not going to help them resolve what's going on with your estate. Problem number 4, well, with all of this, confusion and delays and frustration, you may end up paying more than you should have, or your beneficiaries may end up paying more than they should have to wind things up. One of the things to think about is it will take more time and effort, and it may end up costing more. If you own real property but nobody knows where it is, you may have to spend time and effort and money to figure out what those assets are, especially if there are mineral interests, as many families here in Texas own. Well, you may have to engage a landman to go out and figure out which assets, which interests you own and where they're located. So the last risk we want to talk about, though, is the one that people think of, fighting. Well, if somebody passes on and there's no effective plan in place, sure, there's going to be delays, frustration, confusion, and overpaying, but you run a real risk of beneficiaries not getting what they consider to be their fair share, or somebody else they don't like getting too much of a fair share. So fighting among beneficiaries could be a very real risk depending on each family. Having a plan in place can help mitigate that risk of fighting by either dealing with the fights earlier on to let beneficiaries know what they're getting and help diffuse those early, or making sure that there are plans in place to avoid the problems that can be kicked up by a beneficiary who's not getting their fair share. So there are 5 big risks we want to think about when planning, and these are the ones we want to avoid. Delays first, confusion, overpaying, fighting, frustration. These are all avoidable issues, and that's why we want to engage in planning up front.